Welcome. This is the Perrysburg City Council meeting for November 3rd, and we need a call. This is a call to order. We need a roll call, please.
Okay, Ms. Bourne.
Here.
Mr. Coolman.
Here.
Ms. Materney.
Here.
Mr. Matuzak is not here. Mr. McCarthy.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Van Hoosen.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please join me, please stand if you're able and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Minutes of the council meetings of October 6, 2020 and October 20, 2020, and we have some my law directors coming to the podium, so Trish is going to.
Yes, I was going to ask her to answer a couple of questions we had last meeting before we move on for any passage.
There was a request as to whether or not minutes can be amended by City Council. The answer to the question is yes, minutes can be amended. However, I say that with a couple of caveats. The first is that when a committee reports to City Council, that is a report. That is not by definition the minutes from the committee meeting. Committee meeting minutes must be approved by the committee from which they come from before they are officially minutes. So for instance, if you have a committee meeting on a Monday, you have City Council on Tuesday, that committee can report to City Council, but those minutes will not officially be approved until the next committee meeting, at which point the committee members have the opportunity to object or change anything in the minutes that they see necessary. Once the committee has approved the minutes, if council needs to or feels that there is something objectionable, some other member of council, they may bring it before City Council to amend the minutes. Please keep in mind two things. No one has ownership of the minutes. They do not belong to any committee head or any council member. They are a report of the events that took place at a committee or a council meeting, and their entire purpose is to attempt to accurately report the events that took place. Therefore, they don't belong to anybody. They are nobody's minutes. They are the committee minutes from finance or the committee minutes from service, and the committee must be the ones who first vote to approve or change the minutes. Based on what I've just said, do you have any further questions?
So just to clarify, when it comes to committee reports, those should actually be voted on at the committee level.
Committee minutes should be voted on.
Okay.
When a committee comes, so for instance, today, if a chair of a committee is going to give a summation of what happened, that's a report to City Council about what happened at the committee. It does not have to be word for word reading from the minutes. It can be a summary of what happened at the committee level. Does that make sense what I just said? At the next committee meeting, the minutes are to be reviewed, voted upon, and if after that committee approves the minutes, a council member still feels, who's not on the committee, there's a problem, that may be brought up at council.
Since we don't actually have committee meeting minutes, and we're dealing with the committee report, so if there is an objection to the report, then those can be changed.
Also needs to happen at committee level first.
Okay.
Because those are the people who were at the meeting who should be able to articulate the most accurate reflection of events, and they need to be approved there and then can be amended at council level.
Okay, so essentially the committee, just so we understand here, because I know what we have in front of us was some changes that was made during the council level.
Yes.
With those changes should be taken out of the council meeting.
I don't believe you should ever take anything out that you've already done. That would be inappropriate. What we should do is move forward and try and do it right, and have the committee minutes reflect that these are amendments that council would like to see to the minutes, to the committee report, to be reviewed by committee the next time the Recreation Committee meets.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So,
You can't unring a bell, and you should never try to go back and say, we didn't do this or we didn't have this conversation. It took place and it did happen. What should happen, because those minutes have not been voted on, is that these are our proposed changes for committee to review. After the committee does or does not approve the report, if city council still has a problem, it can bring it up again.
Okay, so the recommendation at this point is to move forward what we have, and then make sure we do this correctly in the future.
With the understanding that those were recommendations for the committee to review for amending.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
I think so.
Jan gets it. Does anybody have any other questions? Okay, and always remember that the reports are a summary, and we're looking for accuracy. So if anyone ever feels that there's a mistake, it's because we're just trying to be as accurate as possible, all of us in the city.
Okay, so as a committee member, if we have an issue with, say, the way we're characterized, or something we said is maybe potentially misconstrued in a committee report, we should bring that up at the next committee?
Yes, you should.
Okay,
Absolutely.
all right, just want to make sure I'm...
Absolutely.
So I guess one other quick question for the future as well, the committee reports are usually considered part of the meeting minutes as they're read. If there's an issue, when should the objection be considered?
At the next committee level. It's not supposed to be minutes read at this level. It is supposed to be a report summarizing to all of you.
Part of the council meeting minutes is what I'm trying to get at.
Report given is basically.
Yes.
Okay.
It's supposed to be report given, not,
Part of the meeting minutes.
yes.
Okay.
And I guess one of the things, at the committee level, then there would normally be then, and we haven't done this, and we're gonna start doing it, I think this is one of the suggestions, to make sure there's a vote approving them minutes at the meeting. So that would be a line item that then carried forward in the report, approved last month's minutes.
Yeah.
Well, they're not minutes, they're a committee report. So I wanna make
Approved
sure
last
we're
month's
clear
committee report.
about it. Right now.
Yes.
But I guess to play on that, these reports are, generally speaking, the reports that we're seeing tonight and you're going to hear us report on are going to end up being memorialized as minutes unless there's objections at the committee level or amendments at the...
They are going to be memorialized as report given by the committee chair, report to be approved by committee at the following committee meeting, is how they should be memorialized.
So then if we amend it at the committee level and we look up at the minutes for that committee that are archived, it should reflect any amendments we make at a committee
It should,
level.
yes.
Okay, so that will now be a line item agenda.
I would, if I were all of you, yes, I would make sure that you make, for all of your committee meetings, a line item agenda to approve the report from the previous months.
Sounds good. I think that's-
And if for some reason you cancel a meeting, that's fine.
Right.
If that's the only thing on your committee meeting and you want to cancel, it's okay to go another month.
Yeah.
And then, does that make sense?
Yeah, that procedure
Okay,
makes
I just
sense.
wanted to make sure that nobody felt that like, oh my God, we can never cancel a meeting because now we have to approve these minutes.
No, that's fine. Did someone say something?
I don't know, I think,
What I would like to do then at this point is make a motion here to approve the October 6th minutes of the public hearing, the October 6th minutes of the Perrysburg City Council, the October 20th minutes of the special meeting of the City Council, and then the October 20th minutes of the City Council meeting as well.
I'll second.
Mr. President, I have a discussion.
hold on, wait,
We got a
I'll
second.
second.
you got a second, okay, I didn't hear that, sorry. Okay, so the floor's open to discussion, Councilwoman Blunt.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I would say that I have an objection to the way that October 6th was written on the agenda. However, I do approve, I'd like to say, I do approve of the October 20th council minutes.
Okay. I'm gonna do, why don't we backtrack that and separate the two for you? So I will retract my motion, if that is the correct way to do that. And I will make a motion to approve the October 6th I'm gonna separate all of them out if that's all right with everyone. The October 6th, public hearing minutes.
I'll second.
Discussion, roll call.
Okay, Ms. Bourne,
Yes on the public hearings.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
All right, then I will make a motion to approve the October 6th regular city council meeting.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Okay, Ms. Bourne,
No.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
All right, with that being said, I will make a motion to approve, I'm gonna do the 20th altogether if there's no objections. I'll make a motion to approve the October 20th special meeting as well as the regular city council minutes.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Okay, once again, Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Abstain.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
All right, no further items on the meeting minutes.
Progress. Do you think, James Norsmeyer, see we have special reports, and we have a representative from OI here. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name.
It's been mispronounced a number of times, so.
Yeah, apologize.
Good evening, Mayor, Council President Smith. I'm Jim Nordmeyer. I'm Vice President of Sustainability at OI Glass. And I think I'm here today to talk about what's going on at OI for America's Recycle Day, as well as what we see happening in other communities around the country. So for America's Recycle Day, of course, OI is connected with the local chapter of Keep America Beautiful. And so our employees are using their volunteer portal to participate in America Recycles Day, which is November 15th, with the KAB here in Keep Toledo, Lucas County, and of course expand to Wood County Beautiful. In addition to that, on campus, we are opening our campus to glass container collection. And we're going to open it to both Wood County and Lucas County, and to all the municipalities in those counties. We'll have a large roll-off dumpster in our parking lot with appropriate signage, encouraging people to recycle glass containers at our campus. Not just for that day, for that time into the future, until we decide to stop. And we have no reason to stop. So that's what we're doing. Other communities around the country are doing similar things. Virginia, the state of Virginia, is probably the model. They are using, where many municipalities have dropped glass in their curbside collection, they put these pop-up collection centers. These pop-up collection centers were one-time events, have turned into everyday collection centers in Alexandria, Fairfax County, Arlington County, Lucerne County, Albemarle County, which is Charlottesville, is doing something very similar. James City County, in the southern part of the state, also doing these collection centers. What we're doing on our campus is modeling what they're doing, quite frankly. We see it happening in Pittsburgh. We see it happening in Scranton, Pennsylvania. So not any political statements there, but happening in that particular part of Pennsylvania too. So there's a groundswell of movement across the country on coming up with alternate collection systems. And of course, we're always open to discussing here with the city of Perrysburg to do something here of similar nature. Our campus will be a collection site. If you want to collect it and bring it to our campus for then shipment to actually Rumpke Recycling in Dayton, we're more than happy to do that.
I guess a quick follow-up on that is, if anybody wanted to participate in the drop-off, should they be separated into different colors of glass? Can you give us some details on that?
There are limitations on the types of glass, but separation by color is not required. So any food or beverage container glass is acceptable. So beer, wine, spirits, spaghetti sauce, hot sauce, all those things. You can bring them, preferably they're clean, but they don't have to be clean. Labels can be on, closures can be on, corks can be in bottles, doesn't matter. During the processing at Rumpke in Dayton, Ohio, all that will be removed. And once it's color separated, they actually have optical sorters who do the separation. It'll be shipped to our plant in Zanesville, Ohio, or our plant in LaPel, Indiana, to be turned into new glass containers.
Sounds great. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming today, and we appreciate all you do for the community, and this is a nice opportunity, so we'll make sure that we publicize it and make sure people are very conscientious to recycle their glass.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And of course, our PR person is in contact with various publications, so we'd love to fill that bin in a day, so thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming out.
Do you have his contact information, Bridget?
Yes, I do.
Thanks. Letters, communication citizens concerns. Concern, please come up to the podium. If not, administrative report. First, I just want to, although we're not going out over the 12 wires today, all those people who ran for office, all of us here know how hard that is, and I want to recognize all of those people who've done that this year. It takes a lot to do that, and so putting yourself into the fight is worth just even recognition. And then I also want to recognize all the people who hopefully have voted. There's still time if you haven't. So I think with the community engagement is so important. So everybody voted today. A big thank you. I have a couple of reports. One, Laura, our city law director, was on the board, a board member of the Northwest Ohio Advanced Energy Improvement District. His appointment from the city of Perrysburg. So I would like to recommend that our new law director fill that position, and we will need a vote of the council. We'll need a motion from council, and then hopefully have her appointed to the board. So I make that recommendation.
I'd like to make a motion for Kate Sandretto to be on that. I think she'd be great.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
All right, Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Maybe put that in the job description. Then.
We will have work, so we can always try to.
I have nothing else to report at this time, although I'm forgetting something. But city administrator,
No report, Your Honor?
finance director,
No report.
director of law,
No report.
president of council.
Thank you, Your Honor. What I'm going to do here is, I know Mr. Matuzik isn't here from Finance and Economic Development. He asked me to start the first reading of the President Council report currently with his assets. So I would like to introduce ordinance 22-2020 and move the rules to be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only.
Second?
Discussion, roll call.
Okay, Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance number 22, 2020, making appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Perrysburg, Wood County, Ohio for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2021, and declaring an emergency.
All right, and one other thing that I would like to point out, I don't know if the finance director might be able to answer this question, is I know that the Bureau of Worker Comp has the dividends coming to the city, and from what I saw on the site, it was about $844,000 that's being returned to the city. Is that correct, or am I mistaken what I saw in there?
I have not received anything official from anybody at this point. I don't know where I saw the governor make a comment the other day that he would like to rebate workers' comp amounts. Now, I would have to say that $800,000 would be significantly more than we pay in a given year, so that would surprise me, but
Well, according to the Bureau of Workers' Comp at Ohio, said where I was, it says the BWC board approved the $5 billion yesterday in the press release, and there was a link on here that said that a county break dividends for specific public employers on record can be found at that link, and it showed $844,000 for the city of Perrysburg.
Yeah, they must be counting several years worth of payments or something, I don't know.
Yeah, it seemed pretty significant, so I know that that's going to be a significant possible change to our budget here. I don't know if that's going to affect the current one we have, or if that's going to be on the revision in March, but.
You know, last year they rebated almost 100% of what we paid in also, so.
Yeah, so it's, be curious to find out exactly what that's going to be and how that's going to impact this potential budget moving forward, and especially with, I know one of the things, and I'll just remind council of this as well for those who are new up here, but for the last couple of years, we have taken $10,000 that's in the city council fund and given that to the Perrysburg Heights Center for some of the educational programs that are utilized by our residents. One of the things that I'm hoping we might be able to do as well is find some ways to cut that out within the budget overall, instead of having council have to give 100% discretionary funds for that too moving forward. So just something that you want to think of, but I think that would be important for us to find some other ways to make sure that stays in the budget permanently versus having to make that vote to transfer that out.
It's a good point, because actually that request has been made by the Heights community.
Yeah. So just, I know we have the revised one, we have this 844 coming in at $10,000 is something I think we can carve out somewhere else at some point, but I want to bring that to everyone's attention, because I do think we should still be supporting that. And that is the end of the President's Council report.
All right, thank you. Service Committee?
We did meet on the 28th. The meeting was called to order by Chairperson Jim McCarney. Committee members present were Carter Coleman, Jim Attorney Jonathan Smith, also Kate Sandrino. First thing that this was discussed was the awarding of a resurfacing design contract. There was numerous requests, submission, lack of a better word. I must admit, knowing that it's a report, and I want to report everything, is making a little bit of quandary what to say.
Councilman Attorney, if you're more comfortable
Just reading it, that's
that
fine.
doesn't hurt, that's not violating anything,
Okay.
okay?
Thank you.
So do what makes you comfortable presenting your committee report.
Okay. She stated 7 firms responded to the request for qualifications for the design of the 2021 surface project. DGL was chosen. Administration is requesting approval, which will be coming with DGL not to exceed $95,000. Mr. Smith said in the future he'd like to see the scores and rankings of all the firms, and he would like somebody to explain the decision process. There's a brief discussion regarding filling the city engineer's position. The committee agreed 3-1 to recommend the approval of the contract with DGL. There was some 2021 budget questions, mainly by Mr. Coleman, who wanted, the only question he had to do with recycling, which he's not the only one. There's a lot of them. Myself and Jonathan Smith have questions about whether or not we'll be able to continue recycling concerning budget service and how it will look in the future. The committee discussed having someone from OI and either environmentalist or conservationist come down and talk to the committee. Ms. Sandretto clarified that this is not an issue the committee is looking to solve for the 2021 budget, and we're not. Other business, Ms. Materney said that she previously mentioned sponsorship from companies for Divergent Diamond and Roundabouts. Mr. Smith said that he had a conversation previously with Ms. Cabot about the subject. He does not think the administration is opposed to it. Ms. Sandretto said that she will look into the legality of it. There is no further business. The meeting was adjourned at 6:13. Next meeting is November 25th, 2020 at 5:30. I'm not sure about that meeting either.
Okay.
I will decide when we get closer to it, because it's already been listed. At this time, I would like to introduce Resolution 54-2020, and move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only, and dispense with the second, third readings.
Second. Roll call?
Okay, Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Resolution number 54, 2020, a resolution authorizing an agreement with DGL Consulting Engineers LLC for design specifications and bid documents for the 2021 road resurfacing program at a cost not to exceed $95,000 and declaring an emergency.
I move that resolution, do I need discussion?
No, you need to make a motion to pass it.
Okay. I move that resolution
54.
54-2020 be passed as emergency measure.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Okay, Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Safety Committee?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Safety Committee met on October the 27th and was called to order at 6:24 p.m. by myself. Committee members present was Deborah Bourne, and Mr. Kuzak was absent. Also present were Kate Segretto, Law Director Pat Jones, Police Chief, Rudy Ruiz, Fire Chief. Citizens' concerns, Becky Sherman for Ridgewood Circle was present and asked that people with pre-existing conditions who work with a team of doctors will be permitted to choose what hospital they are transferred to when they call 911. Ms. Sangrado said that we have a policy that a patient can sign a waiver if they choose to be transported to a facility other than St. Luke's or Mercy Perrysburg Emergency. If the patient does not have the mental capacity to sign the waiver, the person who signs for them has to have the patient's medical power of attorney. Ms. Sangrado told Ms. Sherman to bring her document and she will review it to make sure it is sufficient to allow her to sign a waiver for her husband. Repealing hunting ordinance. Mr. Sangrado stated that 20 years ago an ordinance was drafted to try and deal with a deer problem in the city. The language in the ordinance was for one specific culling event, but the language was so narrow, and when it was used, the outcome of the event did not decrease the deer population. It is not needed. And Ms. Sangrado recommended that it be repealed. We agreed 2-0 to recommend its repeal. CMC training equipment for the fire department division. Ms. Sangrado stated that the fire division had planned to do confined space training in the fall, but COVID hit it, so it was temporarily placed on hold. They would still like to get the training in this year and are requesting approval of the purchase of equipment from Finley Fire in the amount of $26,505 to do the confined space training. The committee agreed 2-0 to recommend. The police budget. Chief Jones reviewed the 2021 police budget. He stated that overall it is 1.7% less than last year's budget. The budget includes $25,000 to update the weight room. Chief Jones explained that we have never purchased equipment for it, and they are using donated items. Also included is the purchase of 3 vehicles. Chief Jones said that purchasing 3 vehicles a year would put them on a 4 to 5 year rotation. I asked if there was anything that the police division had asked for, and it was not included in the budget, and Chief Jones said there was not. Fire budget, Chief Woods reviewed the 2021 fire budget as well. He said it is down $500,000 from last year. He said that the overtime budget was decreased by $75,000 and the equipment was reduced because last year they purchased a new ambulance. I asked about the upgrades to the fire station across the street, and Chief Woods said that they are moving forward with that, but it is in a different budget budget area. There being no further business, we adjourned at 7:02. And our next committee meeting will be Tuesday, November 24th at 6 p.m. And I do have one resolution and one ordinance. And in terms of the ordinance, will I just make one motion, or do we read the whole?
You're just going to move, well, there's two motions. You're moving to introduce it and then moving to approve it.
So we're just without the second, third readings and...
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you. I would like to introduce ordinance 2020 and move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only, and to dispense with the second and third readings.
Second?
Roll call?
Okay, Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Ordinance number 20, 2020, repealing codified ordinance section 618.125, enacted by ordinance number 133-98 on October 6th of 1998.
I move that ordinance 2020 be passed.
Second?
Discussion? I do have one question, because I know it's been brought to me from several residents about the deer population, and it's related to this, obviously, but just kind of curious to see what we can do. There's been some reports that came from the spring, obviously, with COVID, no one's out driving as much as they have been in the past, but people hitting deer and causing, obviously, some property damage for them. Has there been any steps taken from the city to reduce it, or to work towards a deer population issue? And I know that this isn't necessarily doing anything anyways, especially after reading the code. I understand why this is being repealed.
In terms of the city actually doing something about the deer population, we really don't have any tools in our toolbox. Our animal control officer, his job responsibilities are really specific to what's in the Ohio Revised Code in terms of what a county dog warden can do. Per our codified ordinances, it mirrors that language. So really, our ACO should only be dealing with dogs and feral cats.
I understand. Is there something that we can put in the toolbox to help?
I can talk to the chief of police, because I know that we personally in the mayor's office have not received any phone calls. And in any conversations I've had with Chief Jones, he's not mentioned that they have received any phone calls.
I know that I've had some people come up to me, talk to me personally about some of the issues.
But I can certainly bring that up with him at staff tomorrow and see what his feelings are on that, and work with Ms. Andretto on what legal options we have available to us.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call?
Okay, Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Materney.
Yes.
Thank you.
I would like to introduce resolution 55-2020 and move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only, and to dispense with the second and third readings.
Second?
Roll call?
Okay, Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution number 55, 2020, a resolution authorizing a purchase agreement with Findlay Fire Equipment not to exceed $26,505 for the purchase of equipment necessary for confined space training for the Perrysburg Fire Department and declaring an emergency.
I move that resolution 55-2020 be passed as an emergency measure.
Second?
Discussion? Roll call?
All right, Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Ms. Materney.
Yes.
Thank you.
That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Recreation Committee?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no report. The next meeting is going to be November 10th at 6:30 p.m. And I will add to that, I attended the PrEP meeting last night via Zoom. One of the things that was brought up by the PrEP group is they had asked about a crosswalk between Rotary and Rivercrest Park, which is really kind of a good idea. You could think about that. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Planning and zoning?
No report, Your Honor. We meet on November 11th at 5:30 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Personnel Committee?
It's November 12th is what Mary Jo just said.
They got moved again, remember?
Oh, what
Oh,
is it
I
now?
It's on the 12th.
On the 12th?
Yeah.
Stand corrected, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Personnel committee.
Okay, we had a meeting on October 27th. I was there. Also present was Tim McCarthy, Kate Sandretto, Kelly Shalvon, and Matt Choma.
Yes.
And he's the Deputy Director of Public Utilities. We had a discussion regarding proposed code of conduct for elected and appointed officials. We reviewed the first draft. We made some suggestions. Ms. Sandretto is going to get back with us with some recommendations. I believe she sent an email out today to that committee outlining some of those amendments. Reviewed proposed changes to the city engineer's job description and salary range. As you may know, we had interviews for the city engineer. The administration decided not to move forward with a candidate. Wanted to reevaluate the salary level. And they are asking that we approve an increase in that level. We had some concerns on increasing it to it potentially being higher, one of the highest paid jobs in the city, without having the wage study that we have been waiting for, I believe, 2 years at this point. So that will be an agenda item next time, as well as we wait some information from the city administration on that. Review proposed repeals and updates for section 266 of the administrative code. We tabled that item because we were running short on time. The 2021 budget, the committee reviewed the human resources budget for 2021, excuse me. Michelle Pond addressed the line items with significant changes from this year. There was no further business. The meeting was adjourned at 6:19. Next meeting will be Tuesday, November 24th at 5 p.m. And no legislation. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Public utilities. Thank you, Your Honor. I do have a report to read through here today. We did have a meeting on October 28th at 6:30 p.m. Chairman Jonathan Smith, committee members present were Dan Materney, Jonathan Smith, and Barry Van Hoosen. Also present were Kate Sandretto, Law Director, and Alice Gatsby, Director of Public Utilities. First item on the agenda was the sewer credit for 215th West 6th Street. Ms. Gatsby requested an approval of the sewer credit amount of $1,240.33 for 215 West 6th Street. She stated that an outdoor spigot was left on and the water did not enter the sanitary sewer. The committee agreed 3-0 to recommend approval of the credit. So at this time, I would like to make a motion to approve the sewer credit for 215 West 6th Street in the amount of $1,240.33.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Okay, Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Hoosen.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, and moving along with my report, we had sewer credit tabulations for the remaining projects. In this Gatsby report, there were 5 additional credits that had been approved that fell underneath the required amount of council since the last committee meeting, mostly for hoses that were accidentally left on. She said that the year-to-date total of credits granted is $6,499.79. We moved to the award of the construction bid for the wastewater treatment plant dewatering project. Ms. Sandretto requested approval of the contract with Moser Construction in the amount of $1,499,000 for construction of the dewatering project, the wastewater treatment plant. 3 bids were received, and Moser had the lowest bid. Mr. Smith asked if there is any contingency amount in this contract, and Ms. Gatsby said there is not, and they do not have any reason to believe there needs to be. Mr. Van Hoosen asked how long the current process has been in place, and Ms. Gatsby said since about 1990. Mr. Van Hoosen asked about the useful life of these improvements. Ms. Gatsby said there are not a lot of moving parts, so the proper maintenance, it should last at least 20 years. She explained that this technology, the savings is in the clean water used and in the operational efficiency. It does not need to be babysat all day. The committee agreed 3-0 to recommend approval of the contract with Moser Construction. Next item on the agenda.
Councilman
Yes.
Smith, we did want to make a correction to the
Okay.
administration in that fact point. You are correct as to what was said. However, there is a $50,000 contingency allowance in that contract. It
Okay.
is part of the $1,499,000. It is not in addition to. And that contingency is for us, the city, if we feel that there needs to be additional money spent not for the contractor to feel that they need additional money spent. So we just wanted to make sure we made that correction. We apologize for that mistake.
No, that's all right, thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Next item on the agenda was the award design contract for Maple Street sanitary sewer overflow. Ms. Ganser requested approval of a contract with Jones & Henry for the design services for the Maple Street emergency sanitary sewer overflow in an amount not to exceed $98,455. 5 firms responded to the request for quotes, and Jones & Henry was chosen based on the rankings. This will cover the preliminary engineering, detailed design engineering through bidding and contract award, and construction engineering. Geotech service will be separate because we need to get some of the design work done before geotech work can be done. The project will include replacement of 600 feet of sanitary sewer, construction of 1,200 feet of 18-inch force main, and rehab of approximately 4,100 feet of 15-inch sewer along Grassy Creek, along with the 5, I can't remember what MGD means, portable pump and trailer. The committee agreed 3-0 to recommend approval of the contract, legislation to amend delinquent payment penalties and processing. Mr. Smith recapped the prior discussions that the committee has had over several meetings on the delinquent payment penalties. Ms. Andretto said that council previously passed legislation to apply penalties based on the postmark date, but after discussion with the billing office, it was determined that not all mail has a postmark, and in an attempt to fix the problem, they created some others. Ms. Andretto said that the proposed language states that late fees will not be applied until the morning of the 19th regardless of postmark, and the customer may request to have 1 late fee waived per calendar year. Mr. Smith said that this language is actually more in line with past practice, and the committee agreed 3-0 to recommend approval of the ordinance. Next item was reviewing section 1060.06B, Rule 65 regarding non-sufficient fund fee. Ms. Gassi stated the code provided for a non-sufficient fund fee for $20 for inside customers and $30 for outside customers. She stated the $20 does not cover the city's fee from the bank, and she said that she would prefer removing the rule and relying on the Director of Finance to take charges from the bank. Ms. Andretto said that this does not need to be codified, it can be administrative policy, so she would recommend repealing this language. She said there's too much in the code and the goal is to eliminate things that should not be codified. Mr. Smith said that his concern is that if an administrative policy, it could be revoked or changed at any time. Mr. Smith also said that he does not think that the fee should be different for customers outside the city. Ms. Andretto said that she will prepare 2 pieces of legislation, one to repeal and one with language following the banking fees. In other business, Ms. Gassi distributed a handout for the committee to look at regarding the summary design for the Fort Mason Road ditch. Ms. Gassi said the cost estimate is $350,000, and if approved, it would be included in the budget amended next year. She said that the proposal would also allow the sidewalk to stay. The committee discussed some of the specifics of the summary and discussed whether a multi-use path would fit instead of the sidewalk. Mr. Smith said that he would like an electronic copy of the report that could be emailed to the neighbors in the area. There was discussion regarding the homeowners grants. Currently, the grant covers up to 2/3 of the cost of the construction, up to a maximum, up to a $6,000 amount, so it maxes out at $9,000 project. Ms. Gossi said it could be increased to 80% of the cost, up to $8,000, which would max out at $10,000 project, or 80% up to $11,200, which would make the maximum project cost $14,000. Mr. Smith said that he's hoping to increase participation and would like to take this to City Council in December. Ms. Gossi said that there is $200,000 in the budget for the grant program. There being no further business, the meeting adjourned at 7:36 p.m. and our next scheduled meeting is tentatively set for November 25th at 6:30, depending on items for the agenda. With that being said, I do have an ordinance and 2 resolutions, and I will read them all each individually.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Could you possibly split them up, please?
That's exactly what I'm planning to do. I would like to introduce ordinance 21-2020. We move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only, and dispense with the 2nd and 3rd reading.
Second.
Roll call.
Okay, Ms. Bourne?
Yes.
Mr. Coolman?
Yes.
Ms. Materney?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Ordinance number 21, 2020, amending codified ordinance section 1060.06B, Rule 24 regarding the rules governing water and sanitary sewer charges previously amended in ordinance number 137, 1985 on December 17, 1985, and previously amended on ordinance number 6, 2020 on July 7, 2020, and declaring an emergency.
All right. I move that ordinance 21-2020 be passed as an emergency measure.
I second.
Discussion?
Quick question. Jonathan, can you give us a sense as to why the postmark date system did not work? I know the minutes said not all mail has a postmark. If it doesn't have a postmark, then it would seem okay. You can't count it unless it's the day it came in.
So there was a lot of other things that we ended up finding, and I'm sure Ms. Andretta can fill in, but I'll kind of give my explanation first.
Okay.
We first had the issue because there was a lot of bills that were coming in late due to the issues that people are experiencing with the post office, as well as we've had several complaints of people sending checks in and then not arriving for 30 or to 60 days after the fact. What we ended up finding out after we passed this is that the current practice of the building department has been this way for probably 30 or some years, at least decades, is that what we're passing today is what they were already practicing. So they were waiting a few days till they were adding late fees, and then they were waiving them for individuals if they hadn't had a late fee in, a 1 year period. What ended up happening is once this was passed, it was realized that the code as it was written wasn't being followed to the T. So this was actually going to be creating more late fees instead of reducing it, because previously the late fees weren't being added until about 3 or 4 days after the due date. With the new practice, it was going to be added exactly on the 15th, and then it would have to come off, and if they didn't have a postmark, they weren't able to waive the fee. If that makes sense, but maybe our law director can kind of explain a little better, attorney to attorney.
I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
I think those are good changes to make, but I still don't understand why it's more, yes, it's a little bit more burden for the folks to, review the envelopes that came in today and say, oh, this one is postmarked by the 15th. I'm just concerned, I want to make sure we're not, a lot of citizens are being inconvenienced by these mail system irregularities. And if someone asks me about it, I want to be able to tell them, look, it's not just we're trying to take some of the burden off our city employees.
And I agree with you 100%, and that was one of the things that we actually discussed. What the problem that they found in the building department is that there was a lot of mail that was coming in that wasn't even postmarked. There's still an issue that's sitting out there from a direct bill bank. I won't name the bank that having this issue where the check still hasn't arrived, and I don't know if it's arrived yet or not.
No, it has not, I don't
It's been
believe.
90 days since that was sent. And so it's still showing as a late fee on there until they actually receive it. But regardless of that, there is a lot of mail that was coming in without a postmark, and unless there is a postmark on there, they weren't able to waive the fees. And the way that they were doing it before is, again, they weren't adding the late fees until about 3 or 4 days after the due date. Now they're adding right on the 15th, and if that mail comes in late without a postmark, there's no recourse at that point.
So there's mail coming through the system that doesn't have a
There's
postmark?
quite a bit of mail that comes through the system without a postmark. Anything that is going through a third-party mailing provider that's doing bulk mailings on behalf of a business, those don't come through with postmarks.
I'll be done. Okay.
We did not realize that when Laura Elkard and myself were down there, going through the steps, and they say every day mail comes in without postmarks.
Okay.
Just even a regular residence piece of mail.
Okay, then
It's very random and haphazard.
I assumed it was like a drop-off thing.
No.
It's
No.
like, we drop off our water papers lots and lawns, and we just drop it off.
Yes, and the incident that Mr. Councilman Smith is alluding to, a local bank who withdraws the money from a variety of account holders' accounts, writes us a check and mails it to our utilities department. That has still not arrived.
Oh, boy.
So all those people have had their account debited, but they're also getting late fees because we've never received the payment.
I got you. Okay.
So there was a variety of issues going on that were unbeknownst to us, but the more we dived into it, the more we found out that we are, as Councilman Smith said, we're kind of going back and actually memorializing the way we were doing it before. That was not quite following the codified ordinances and the rules that were in the codified ordinances.
And there's still some issues where we're still having that same thing where people are getting the checks late and they weren't able to waive it because it was, by the time the checks arrived, 60 days later.
Yeah.
And they saying, well, it's still late and you got it, but it was still hard for them to prove. So putting in this this calendar year waiver provides that opportunity, because it shouldn't happen every single month. And that's one thing that wasn't really being completely practiced, but we should actually have that on there now.
I understand now. I didn't realize mail came through the system without a postmark.
No, unfortunately, we
We learn
received our
something new
office.
every day.
So you done with your quick question?
Yeah.
I have a question as well. What if it's paid on the third business date after the 15-day period? Is it partially waived? Then it should say so. It does not read that way now. That's what I question about.
Okay. There is no partial waiving. It's due on the 15th. There will be no late fees on the 16th, 17th, or 18th. On the morning of the 19th, late fees will be applied.
It's more of a grace period at this point.
So we're giving, so while it's due on the 15th, we're giving 3 days of grace for individuals who drop it in the mailbox on the 14th or 15th for a bill that's due on the 15th. Does that answer the question?
Somewhat. And I had a possible solution, possibly. I was wondering about if it could possibly be added, a bill not paid by the 15th of billing month shall be considered delinquent date. On the morning of the fourth business date after the delinquent date, any outstanding sums owed shall be subject to a 15% penalty charge on any outstanding balance. I didn't know if that would help.
I think that's actually good language, but I think that the way it's written codifies what they're doing in utilities billing, and I don't think there will be a problem, because now the morning of the 19th, it will be.
I just didn't want the citizens to have a problem, or also the good people that work at the water division as well.
Yeah, I think that we talked about this specific legislation with them, and this was what they asked us to draft, was the people. And if there's a problem, we did put in the waiver, so that for the best term any of us have come up with is the one-offs, the person who pays all their bills on time, but then one doesn't come through. We wanted those individuals to be able to have their waiver. What we don't want are somebody to be able to waive every month, because what we've learned in all of this is that most of our delinquencies are people who are regularly delinquent. The one-offs are actually the exception to the rule. Even in COVID, in this situation, it's rare.
Any other discussion? Roll call?
Okay, Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen,
Yes.
Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman.
Yes.
Thank you.
I would like to introduce Resolution 56, 2020, and move the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number title only, and dispense with the second and third readings.
Second.
Roll call?
Okay, Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Resolution number 56, 2020, authorizing an agreement with Mosier Construction Incorporated for the construction of the dewatering improvements of the wastewater treatment plant in an amount not to exceed $1,499,000 and declaring an emergency.
All right, I move that Resolution 56, 2020 be passed as an emergency measure.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Okay, Mr. Van Huzen,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Materney.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, I would like to introduce Resolution 57, 2020, and move the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only, and dispense with the second and third readings.
Second.
Roll call?
Okay, Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Resolution number 57, 2020, accepting the proposal and entering into an agreement with Jones and Henry Engineering for professional design services for the Maple Street ERSSO design in an amount not to exceed $98,455 and declaring an emergency.
All right, I move that Resolution 57, 2020 be passed as emergency measure.
I second it.
Excellent.
Looks like they can be.
Discussion? Roll call?
Okay, Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Ms. Materney.
Yes.
Mr. Coolman.
Yes.
Ms. Bourne.
Yes.
Thank you.
No further business, Your Honor?
Thank you. Is there any other business for council?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
we're operating under a new system now, so I want to ask you this question. Do you take questions at any other point in the meeting than citizen concerns, or do I wait until the next meeting?
I think it would be, if there's about a specific item that was on the agenda, that would have been the time to talk about it, or the citizen concern. So I think we'll have to wait till next time. Thank you very much. Any other business for council?
Second.
Hearing no objection, we're adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.